In this video, I'm making a do-it-yourself baby gym. A baby gym is a kind of platform that lets babies knock toys around to understand the world around them. My wife wanted to buy one at Target and I refused because it seemed excessive. I don't remember ever having one myself. Then she sent me an article about some people who made one out of PVC. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to read the article. The idea seemed simple enough, so I decided to replicate it using wood on a lathe. Here's a shot of the final product. One reason I used a lathe was because I wanted each part of the gym to be unique, and since I have no means to replicate any of the designs, that seemed easy enough. Since it's a toy for stimulation, I figured that the texture of varying patterns would be more interesting for a baby. This video is mostly just to inspire and entertain, and doesn't document every little step. It's a very basic design. I'll post the dimensions in the description, but to be honest, I just eyeballed what I thought made sense. Later, my wife used a model baby to test the scale, and it seemed correct. At first I used pine, and it seemed to be going well, but once I stopped the lathe, I saw the wood was pretty gouged. And I think it's because the wood was really old and dried out, and somebody else had given it to me, so I think it was a condition issue. I pulled out some buckthorn and I was turning it, and it was turning out really well, but I thought it might be too toxic for a baby to chew on. So I pulled out some maple that I purchased way back. The maple turns well, but the only dimensions I had were 3/4 by 1.5, so I ripped it down to 3/4 by 3/4. Maple is robust enough to turn pretty well, even at that thickness. Unfortunately, it vibrated excessively, which was a limiting factor, and also led to me injuring myself. If you stick around to watch the whole video, I'll show you what happened to my thumb as a strange reward. If you've been following my channel for a while, you might think it's primarily a woodworking channel. I actually do a lot of different things, but they're really complicated to film and explain compared to woodworking, which is something I think most people can relate to and appreciate. Since the footage of this wood turning is interesting but also repetitive, instead of narrating what I'm doing, I'll tell you a story from when I was a kid while the video plays. I always wanted a treehouse when I was growing up. I guess you'd expect my dad would create one for me, but he was rarely around. From a young age, I'd been using hand tools and power tools. I basically grew up in a construction site. Tools laying around, electrical outlets uncovered, nails and such laying around, bare wood and unpainted drywall. So I selected one of the tallest trees on the property for my treehouse. I put a few nails into a board on the tree to create a kind of ladder to go up the tree, board by board. But the thing is that you couldn't really climb it unless you climbed from the middle, otherwise you'd twist the board and it would pull out of the tree. So I nailed this ladder up until I was about level with our actual house. This was about 2.5 stories high. The tree would move around a lot because I was up so high when the wind blew. I needed building materials, so when I walked home from school each day, I would look for stuff people were throwing out. When I saw some wood in the trash, I would drag it home. Found a window or two and I took those home. Somebody was throwing away some rusty old nails or screws. I would collect those and reuse them. One time somebody threw away a roll of carpet, so I dragged that home to use for the floor of the treehouse. In retrospect, this was all extremely dangerous, and I was probably only about 10 years old at the time. I would haul this stuff up the tree as it bounced around in the wind. It's silly, but I was thinking about why I stopped building that treehouse, and it was because of the carpet. I had installed the carpet in the treehouse even though there weren't even any walls or ceiling at the time. And it rained a few times, and I remember these little grubs were all over the carpet after that, and it grossed me out so much that I just stopped building the treehouse. Okay, so you made it through the whole video. As promised, here's what happened to my thumb. Some of the maple was vibrating and caught on the tool, pulled the tool and my thumb into the workpiece. So if you attempt to replicate what I did for this project with the same dimensions, I recommend you use thicker wood or cut the long, narrow wood in half. Then once the lathe work is done, use a dowel and glue the two pieces together, or however many pieces you create. That should help avoid the same accident. The baby gym doesn't have to be very strong, it just holds a few dangling lightweight toys. Well, I hope that gives you some ideas or inspires you, or at the very least entertains you a little. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.